to Russia's invasion of Ukraine now, Russian Defense Ministry has announced its troops have taken control of Ivanovka in Kharkiv region. The troops also repelled 3 counterattacks and inflicted losses on formations of the 14th and 66th Mechanized Brigades in Luhansk and Donetsk People's Republic. Ukraine has not commented on the claims. However, the Ukrainian Armed Forces General Staff reported on Monday that the most intense fighting was taking place in the Pokrovsk and Kharkiv directions, adding that the number of combat encounters has increased to 10. And Italy's Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini has ascribed NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg as a dangerous man. He said this as he briefed journalists in Naples. His comments come after the NATO chief called for allies to lift restrictions on Ukraine, using Western-supplied weapons to hit targets in Russia. NATO nations are divided, with the likes of Germany opposed to the use of Western weapons on Russian territory, although the UK has insisted Kyiv has a right to do so. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has also suggested a U-turn on Washington's early opposition, saying Ukraine should make its own decisions. The New York court, where trial for former U.S. President Donald Trump is being tried for criminal hush money, is currently on a short break. But before then, the defense has been arguing while trying to poke holes at the paper trail that Trump's ex-attorney, Michael Cohen, testified about. Cohen lied to you, Blanche told the jury as he slammed the prosecution's witness. Prosecutors accused Trump of taking part in an illegal conspiracy to undermine the integrity of the 2016 election and an unlawful plan to suppress negative information, which included concealing collapse about 1:40 p.m. Monday, and a section of the 10-unit apartment block in the city of Tongling, located in Dantong Township in Jiaoqi District, fell onto its occupants. Cranes and backhoes are brought in to stabilize the part of the building left standing. There's been no immediate word on the cause of the collapse, although the city has recently seen days of heavy rains that have inundated underground structures. And in bilateral ties, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Chinese Prime Minister Li Qiang have met in Seoul to discuss ways to strengthen economic cooperation and collaboration on regional and international issues. A meeting was held ahead of the 9th trilateral dialogue between Asian heavyweights China, Japan, and South Korea, which began on Monday. It also marked Li's first visit to South Korea since taking office in March 2023. It's a first visit for China's number 2 in 9 years, following former Premier Li Keqiang. Though Beijing is Seoul's largest trading partner, bilateral relations have deteriorated as South Korea's closer alignment with the U.S. under the Yoon administration. We're in Europe, where about 100 farmers have protested in front of European Union institutions calling for a law on the price of dairy products. Farmers took to the streets of Brussels on Monday, demanding a law banning the sale of dairy products at a price below production costs. Demonstrators with fake cows painted in the colors of the European flag marched between the headquarters of the European Parliament and the Commission in the Belgian capital. President of the European Milk Board told Euronews that protesters wanted an EU-wide version of a Spanish law on unfair commercial practices, which forbids selling products below cost at all stages of the purchasing chain. Tens of thousands of students in Somalia's central Hiran region have been forced to stay out of school after heavy rains flooded the institutions. According to Somali education officials, more than 37,000 students in this region are no longer in school. Parents worried about how the disruption of education will affect their children's performance in the upcoming national examinations, while teachers are concerned about the long-term effects on the standard of education. Just last year, the Somali government organized special exams after similar incidents of flooding disrupted the exam timetable. But parents are appealing to the government to establish schools on higher grounds to avoid a yearly occurrence. Steadying more on the continent now is less than 24 hours to the national and provincial elections in South Africa. It will be the country's 7th democratic general election since apartheid ended in 1994, when Nelson Mandela was elected president, with the African National Congress, the ANC, winning 62.5% of the 400 seats in the National Assembly. However, after 30 years of dominance, the African National Congress faces its toughest election yet, needing 50% of the National Assembly to maintain its parliamentary majority. The country's 3 main opposition parties have concluded their campaigns ahead of what could be a pivotal election, marking a potential turning point for South Africa after 3 decades. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samosa, has more.
Thousands of economic freedom fighters, EFF supporters, gathered at a stadium in Limpopo Province, South Africa, for the party's final election rally.
This is a confirmation that the organization of my ancestors exists in every corner of South Africa.
Elsewhere, thousands were bussed in to attend the last leg of the Umkhonto weSizwe Party's final rally in Enhlanzeni, Mpumalanga Province.
Makukhulunywa nge-unemployment kukhulunywa ngendlela emnyama. Akekho omunye kukhulunywa ngayo.
Democratic Alliance DA leader John Steenhuisen used his final mass address before the polls to highlight the failures of the African National Congress to persuade voters to choose his party.
For the first time ever, the DA has a clear path to getting into national government. By uniting with our partners inside the multi-party charter, we have pooled together the biggest bloc of opposition voters since 1994.
Leaders and supporters who gathered at the Wilmore Stadium in Johannesburg affirmed their support for the Democratic Alliance.
I'm very confident. I'm excited. I mean, you can see the numbers here today. This is not the only rally. We've had about 4 this week in different provinces, different places. Last week in KZN, 10,000 people coming out to Curry's Fountain. The polls are looking good. The feeling on the ground is amazing. There's hope in the air amongst South Africans, and that really excites me.
I need change in my country, bro. I'm so tired with corruption. Everywhere you go, there is a corruption. So we must change our country. So we must make our country, we must be proud with our country.
As for me, I will vote DA because that's the only party which seems to care about the youth, because all other parties like ANC, EFF and the new formed are just formations of ANC. So their agenda is not to improve the lives of South Africa, but their agenda is just to focus on their corrupt mind. Now you can see
South Africa's main opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, says that it's confident that it can rescue South Africa from unemployment, poverty, and of course corruption. They are saying that the African National Congress in these upcoming elections, they will lose their outright majority. But we do know that it all depends on the voters. But we're also told that 48 hours before elections, political parties are not allowed to essentially campaign. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Before major elections hold tomorrow, many South Africans who received special permission to vote early continue to cast their ballots today ahead of the polls. A special voting process is for registered voters who are unable to travel to a voting station because of physical challenges such as disability, pregnancy, or advanced age. Independent Electoral Commission staff also visited the elderly at their homes to assist them with exercising their right to vote and explained the process to them. Registered voters living abroad already cast their ballots on May 17th and May 18th. On D-Day, however, a total of 23,292 polling stations will be open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. local time, with Election Day declared a public holiday to facilitate the voting. My colleague Layo Larinde spoke with our correspondent Kayla Megwa, who has been monitoring the upcoming elections in South Africa.
Talking to a lot of young people here in South Africa, one of the things that you hear them say is, oh, I don't think my vote is going to count. So many of them do not even engage in the process. So everything to make it easier. So yes, the polling stations scattered across the country, much like it is done in Nigeria as well, just so more people can engage in the process and not have any excuses of distance and things like that, stopping them from voting. So yes, pretty similar to what we have in the country.
Yeah, and Kayla, lots of issues on the minds of South African people, even as they vote tomorrow, the high rate of crime, high rate of unemployment. But talk to us about what the security will be like. Will it entail the restriction of movement for voters? We know it's also a public holiday.
Yes, indeed. The president had announced that, President Cyril Ramaphosa had announced that voting day will be a public holiday. So yes, we are looking at a public holiday tomorrow. But of course, the police are going to be around. That's something that we've heard. The SA police will be monitoring everything going on, making sure that there's no violence and we don't have situations that are pretty disappointing. So they're hoping that wouldn't happen with the presence of the police. That's going to be deployed tomorrow. So we're looking to see how that works out. But pertinent to note that there is no restriction of movement. The fact that it's a public holiday doesn't mean that people would be restricted to their houses or not be allowed to move around freely. You will be allowed to move around freely. In fact, I went to a few malls yesterday to ask them if they're going to be open on election day, and it's like, yeah, we're going to go out, vote, and come back to work. So that's for some people, some businesses who feel that way. But officially, it is a public holiday. There is no restriction of movement, and the SA police, of course, will be patrolling all across the country to make sure that no one is fomenting trouble and we don't have any disappointing situations during the election.
And finally, how long will voting last tomorrow?
So polls are supposed to open at 7 a.m. and we're hearing that they should close at 9. And there was a conversation that went on today. Remember, we are on observer mission, so to speak, here. And many people were talking about, what happens if at 9 o'clock you still have people on the line? What we're hearing, at least the feelers we're getting, is that no one is going to be left behind. So even if the time for voting closes and people are still on the line, they will probably have to, accommodate all the people who are left behind, so to speak, but they will not be left behind. They will be part of the voting process. So yes, officially 7 to 9, but everyone, they hope, will be a part of the process. Remember, this is a very important election, one that sees the ruling party that has been in power for 30 years, seeing their popularity wane in many ways. So, watching to see how they fare in the elections is something that we'll be looking out for, and how these many political parties will be faring. So yes, everyone will be accommodated in tomorrow's elections.
Staying in South Africa, leaders, dignitaries and citizens gathered in Soweto to commemorate Africa Day under the theme 30 Years of Democracy, Partnership and Growth Building a Better Africa, a Better World. Africa Day marks 61 years since the formation of the Organization of Africa Unity, later renamed the Africa Union in 2002. Our South Africa correspondent Innocent Samosa reports again.
United in diversity and celebrating Africa Day in style, the festivities in Soweto are a colorful display of Africa's rich cultural heritage with music, dance and traditional attire highlighting the diversity and unity of African nations. Speaking at the event, South Africa's Minister of Justice, Ronald Lamola, has emphasized the importance of unity and cooperation in addressing the continent's challenges and building a brighter future.
It is a very important day that we are celebrating after the initiation of the Africa Free Trade Agreement, which will now integrate all of us in our economic activities and also ensure beneficiation of our minerals in the African continent, which will benefit the people of the African continent. We are also glad that the last organ of the AU has also signed the protocol or passed the protocol on the empowerment of youth and women.
As we commemorate this day, some are calling for unity amongst African nations.
we need to be one. That's one thing that we need to do. We need to combine. We need to be one. Yeah, stick to our culture. So, singahlukani. Yeah.
South Africa, many companies come here and they are going to our country in Kenya, in Tanzania, Burundi, to show that we have a unit, you know. So that is expanded in Africa.
Indeed, it was a day of celebration and reflection.
Happy Africa Day.
Happy African Day.
Happy African Day.
We are here enjoying, guys. I just want to say Happy Africa Day to you all.
Many here believe that the celebration is not only a reflection of the past, but also a call to action for all Africans to contribute to a better, more prosperous world. From Soweto, Johannesburg, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Thanks, Innocent. The UN senior humanitarian official Edem Borsarno says the people of Sudan are suffering with the risk of famine very clear in Darfur, in Kordofan and in Khartoum. The director of the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, Operations and Advocacy Division adds that more than anything, the war needs to stop so people can go back to their lives.
The people of Sudan are trapped. The people of Sudan are suffering. And I think it's worth reminding us of a few stark numbers. 18 million people face food insecurity, acute hunger, IPC phase 3 and 4. 5 million of them are.
And at the United Nations headquarters in New York City, in the United States, the Sudanese ambassador Al-Harith Idris Al-Harith Mohammed is calling on the international community and members of the Security Council to recognize the importance of addressing specific complaints with the seriousness that they deserve. The Security Council has held a private meeting on the situation in Sudan, and according to the ambassador, this was after his government submitted a formal request to the Council to discuss the United Arab Emirates' aggression against his nation. However, Mr. Mohammed said that the topic and format decided by the Council's presidency are not in accordance with Sudan's specific request.
Discussed in the Sudan calls upon the international community and the members of the Security Council to recognize the importance of addressing specific complaints with the seriousness they deserve. We urge the Council to reconsider its approach and to convene a meeting that fully aligns with our request and the provisions of international law. As decided by the Presidency, we're not in accordance with our specific request. Instead, the meeting has been structured as a generalized manner, which we believe dilutes the focus and urgency of our concerns. There are no constraints whatsoever or so-called bureaucratic impediments to the aid. This is a bogus narrative which has been perpetuated repeatedly by specific circles who wanted to frustrate the activities of the Sudan in this respect. UAE, as we have just discussed in the Security Council, must be censured and condemned and should willingly come to terms with the UN Charter and abstain forthwith from destabilizing peace and order. They are arming the militia of RSF, and they are also engaging mercenaries with sophisticated weapons to overthrow the government.
Locals in Ghana have been visiting the Mania Palace Museum to see the artifact returned by the UK on loan after 150 years. The artifacts were looted from the court of the Asante King during the turbulent 19th century clashes between the British and the Asante people. Ghanaian authorities have for years tried to reclaim gold treasures looted by British soldiers from the Asante Kingdom, which is also known as Ashanti. The relics, including gold and silver regalia associated with the Asante Royal Court, are being showcased at the Palace Museum in Kumasi, the capital of the Ashanti Kingdom, Ashanti region, as part of the year-long celebration honoring the King's Silver Jubilee.
During that period, they overcame Asante and took away many of our artifacts, many of our treasures. The gold were looted by them. So that was the reason these items were looted and taken out. Several of them that were taken away. Apart from that, we also have a special chair, because a sipim chair that was used by Nana Kofi Kakari, the 10th Asante Hene. That one too was also taken away. So several of them. Asante had a stone palace. The palace was used to store the treasures of Asante. So 1874, that stone palace was destroyed and everything in it was looted by the British. Asante has a lot to show the world. And some of the things that we are seeing on the internet, they are not all about Asante. We have a lot that to showcase to the world. And we invite people to the museum to see it themselves with their naked eyes, that indeed these items are with us.
The International Festival of Drums and Traditional Arts, spearheaded by artist Ntisa Abdel Fattah, is underway at Cairo's Northern Wall Archaeological Theatre in Egypt. Under the theme, Drums Dialogue for Peace, the festival serves as a platform to promote cultural interaction, celebrate diversity, and underscore the importance of preserving Egyptian heritage as a vital aspect of society. Attendees gathered at the festival hall to witness performances featuring dance and music from various cultures worldwide. Well, this year's edition of the festival sees the active involvement of embassies from numerous countries with diplomatic ties to Egypt, including Sudan, Palestine, Japan, Colombia, China, and India, alongside over 30 local troops. Festival activities are spread across 4 locations: the North Cairo Wall Theatre, Hanaga Square, Prince Taz Palace, and Senari House in Sayeda Zainab. Finally, on the program today, hundreds of clowns entertained locals and tourists, and Lima celebrated the Peruvian Clown Day Parade. Well, they could be seen dancing, singing, and wearing colorful costumes and makeup, accompanied by cartoon mascots such as Mickey Mouse and the Pink Panther. Media reports say the parade called for a change in the law to make the holiday official in Peru. Members of Parliament have yet to be open to that discussion. A Cultural Association of Clowns and Circus Performers of Peru celebrate annually in honor of Jose Alvarez Velez, who died on that day in 1987. Dubbed the Clown of the Poor, he was known for performing in impoverished areas of the country and for raising money for local communities. Peruvian Clown Day was first celebrated in 2006. I guess one of the reasons they may want a national holiday is because Peruvians want one day just to be extremely happy. Thanks for watching The World Today. I'm Amarachi Bubani.